You know, I'm gonna say it. I can't believe it. We're in the last game from the original series, and the game I have changed the most with my opinion of. Gears Judgment to people is seen as the black sheep of the Gears games. By that, I mean that it's a game that exists, but most people usually ignore it. The reception to the game has been all over the place. Most of it was from the multiplayer, so I can't really say anything on that front, but with the story and campaign in general, it's usually seen as alright or not exciting, even to the point of people saying it should have been a DLC for Gears 3. Personally, I think there's a lot about this game that, as the title says, is incredibly underrated. From small things to gameplay changes to larger aspects like the story and visuals. I'm not here to try and tell anyone that their opinion of the game is wrong. Absolutely not. I really did debate myself with naming the video Better Than You Thought, but that kind of thing is just not for me or my style of content. I want to make this video to let others know why people like me enjoy the game, and yeah, I really do like this game. But let's finally talk about one of the most controversial games in the series. So hi, my name is Solar, and this is Gears of War Judgment. After the success of the first 3 Gears of War games, it's no doubt that the series became a staple of Xbox's library. But with the third game being the finale of the series, what could really be done next? Why not a prequel? The Gears series is full of rich lore from its past, and much of it hasn't been seen in the games, with only a few glances and mentions. This game would be the game that would help the general audience understand some of Sarah's history, and we start the game 6 weeks after E-Day. Instead of Marcus, the story is about Damon Baird and Kilo Squad.
There goes a record. What? I went from lieutenant to war criminal in less than a week.
As you were.
Despite a war going on literal miles by them, the new character, Ezra Loomis, has all of Kilo Squad on trial for disorders, and this is what the story will be about. If someone is willing to do a trial in the middle of a war zone, you know the main characters did something insane, and we start the trial with Baird's testimony.
The accused are denied any right to an attorney and may not question the authority of this tribunal.
So we can't ask why you're doing this now.
At the conclusion of this tribunal, I will issue a fair and swift verdict.
Right, of course you will.
Colonel, are we being charged with doing our job?
The charges will be defined as I hear your testimony. Now, Lieutenant Baird, begin with the last time we saw each other.
As said before, the story takes place a while after E-Day, and the Locusts have begun their attack on Halvo Bay. The city itself is home to many military outposts, a major area including the Halvo Bay Military Academy. Kilo Squad was originally sent to defend and help a company, but they saw how decimated the team was, so they were sent to help the local museum. While I would like to talk about the story, I want to start off with the gameplay, because there are some changes that are actually really good at best and not that great at worst. The biggest change up is your loadout. Every Gears game from the past and later on in the future has a loadout of 2 primary weapons, a sidearm, and a grenade holster. In Judgment, you only get 2 weapon slots. It's like COD where you can run 2 different weapons. It's also like other FPSs where switching with the weapon is done with the white button instead of the D-pad. For Gears, it feels odd. And this is what I mean where I'm honestly not a big fan of this change. Maybe in time I'll be more adjusted to this, but for now, not really a fan. There are some good changes like the grenade being able to be thrown faster and quicker. A new addition is the Horde mode sections. I'm actually pretty okay with them. Whilst I really did not like them in Gears 4, here I found them incredibly fun. It's like a regular Horde mode system where you have to defend an area from the enemy, you know, it's really basic stuff, but with how varied the game is, I'm actually okay with it. And one of those varieties comes with one of the biggest changes, the challenge system.
It turned out that someone had designated the old town a Hammer of Dawn free fire zone. With our radios down, all we could do was rush through as fast as possible.
Every level has a Crimson Skull that you can interact with, which adds something extra to the level. This can be things like replacing wretches with the glowing versions, 2 timers to beat before a countdown. There are some challenges that are annoying though, like using shotguns to take out boomers with shields or blood mounts, which is not terrifying in the slightest, or other challenges like defending a spot while being attacked by corpses and centipedes, which is very frustrating sometimes. Realistically, you can go through all the game without doing the challenges and you'll still get stars. Stars are the ranking system in every level, and you get them by doing things like getting kills, closing down an e-hole, getting a bunch of executions or cluster kills. It's actually pretty fun. One more thing I want to talk about is the enemy density, because holy sh**, I love how many enemies there are in every level. The level design in this game is much more linear, but it's also more claustrophobic with a lot of enemy variety. Despite what I said about some areas in the gameplay, this is genuinely the most fun Gears game for me, and I have gone back to it just to experience the chaos that can ensue. Getting to the story, throughout the level we see, or in this case, hear something.
What the hell is that?
That's the end of Halvo Bay.
At the end of the chapter, we see that it's a locust named Karn.
How's that missile work?
Since the game doesn't really explain who he is, I'll explain his story really quickly. Karn was not the most physical locust as seen with his model compared to the average grunt, but instead of strength, Karn uses intelligence to climb his way through the locust rank, becoming a general. He would oversee an assault in Grozny, and currently leads the attack on Halvo Bay. The team gets told by another member about a lightmass missile that they could use to take out Karn. Considering everything we'd seen, and without any objections from Loomis,
Works for me.
they go and find the activation codes. The new member that I mentioned is an entirely new character to the series, Sophia Hendrick.
Colonel, I'm an Academy cadet. I had to see if my friends were alright.
Sophia joined the COG mere hours after the beginning of E-Day and would become a member of the Onyx Guard. While only a cadet, the Onyx Guard are the highest ranking soldiers of the COG. They would usually only follow the command of the COG leaders, and she was sent to join Kilo Squad so that Paddock wouldn't steal technology for the UIR. I like her. She's very by the books, but I really do like her personality. So while we go through the military academy, we should talk about the graphics and style this game has. As one of the last major games released for the Xbox 360, this game holds up incredibly well. An aspect that was brought up for this game was going back to the grittier look to the world that was in the first two games. This was said in an interview done by Game Informer with Chris Perna, the former art director for Epic Games. The article is honestly a great read to look into the style of Gears of War and how it was made, and as an artist, it's really cool seeing all this kind of stuff. Anyway, there was a question about how the art team approached the theme and how it compares to the rest of the games. Chris gave this response, and I quote, "I think one of the things we want to get across is a lot more brutality of the Locust, a lot more fear. I think visually, it's probably a darker theme than any of the other games as far as the Locust being scary again. We kind of got away from that a little bit over the course of the series. We're trying to bring some of that back, some of that intensity, some of that fear. You know, when we really concepted these things, they were stealers of children in the night. These were these ghostly figures. It was almost a survival horror game at one point. We kind of wanted to get back to the roots of the Locust and Emergence Day and show them as more vicious and fearsome." This quote perfectly summarizes the visuals of this game. Look at the concept art, the lighting and set pieces from areas in this game. This really does feel like a horror movie mixed with a war zone. I would also say it's like a modern take on the first game without going too overboard with colors or saturation to make the game look more pretty than anything else. To me, this style of graphics fits perfectly and explains the setting of the Gears series. I really advocate for Gears 6 or other Gears games to go back to this kind of style. Before we head back to what Sophia and the team are doing, I wanted to take a moment to talk about the storytelling because it's very unique to how it's been told before. Most of the game takes place in the past, with the testimonies happening in the present. I won't lie in saying that this is one of the only pieces of media I've seen ever do this kind of storytelling, and it's done very well. The reason I also say this is because I finally played through a game that did this horribly wrong. You know what, there's not even going to be some fanfare. It's called Vanguard. I bought this game. I spent over $60 on this game. If you can't tell from my tone, I really do think this game is terrible. There's like, what, 3 things I actually kind of like about this game? Anyway, the campaign itself had a similar way of storytelling, with the task force or whatever the hell they were called having a story told for every character, except for the fact that the stories were bad and had no connections to the present story of Operation Phoenix. Yet somehow in the span of hours with the opening and last mission being part of the present story, they're set up to have grown closer when they have never interacted at all. all. Judgment had it so that every character was with each other throughout the story, and many events would help to strengthen their relationships, making it more believable on the actions they did. The only times the character interactions at all in Vanguard was in the present. That's what I mean that Judgment is a very good way of the storytelling and Vanguard is not. It doesn't give, time to allow these characters to interact with each other. It just puts them in there because, oh, they're the best, and yeah, I can't care. To end this section off, even with the comparisons of stories and all that kind of stuff, Judgment is actually a good game, while Vanguard is not. Back to the story. Both Sophia and Baird work with a professor named Kurt Elliott. He was a military scientist in the military academy, and he helped to engineer the light mass missile. It should be noted that, all that thing with emulsion was still not found out about how it's actually a living thing, and up to this point, it's been used in not just fuel, but as seen here, as a weapon. The light mass missile is incredibly powerful, and seeing how it's used in the game, there's a good reason why Loomis didn't want Kilo Squad using it. The missile used emulsion to create high explosive ordnance, and it can be devastating. Paddock was scarred by high yield explosion as seen in this moment, but thankfully the one in the academy is low yield and can be powerful enough to take out Karn. The only way we can activate a beacon is through one of these guys.
You're kidding me, right? That's our beacon?
These units are tough, durable, and they can cloak. You'll grow to love it. I thought he could cloak.
Unfortunately, this is a video game, so there are some areas where you're gonna have to stop because the guy gets scared by literally everything. After that, Kilo Squad heads out to Professor Elliott's home to get the launch codes. The next character to testify is undoubtedly the most unique, Major Garen Paddock of the Union of Independent Republic.
You Goroznies weren't known for treating prisoners very well. I'm sure you know nothing about it.
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
You don't seem like a man who takes orders. Why even follow Baird?
You might say I had an ulterior motive.
Paddock was raised in the Republic of Grozny, a small nation of the UIR that was known for being one of the only locations that wouldn't surrender to the COG after the Pendulum Wars. Throughout the war, Paddock gained the role of Major and was seen as a war hero for the UIR. In the beginning days of the Locust War, Grozny was decimated early on by Karn, and Paddock would be one of the many survivors who would be rescued by the COG, but instead of being held as POWs, they were given the option to join the COG to fight the Locust. Paddock is a unique person from all the characters we have seen throughout this series. As someone who was born with different ideals to the COG, he was very bitter and still is resentful having to join them. He makes this very obvious with many of his lines, especially to Loomis.
The Open Arms program may have given you our uniform, but you and I remain enemies.
Fine. Let's settle this like enemies then.
Hey, that's enough!
I really do wish I could add more about the UIR because they are a massive part of the Gear story with the Pendulum Wars, but most of the information about them comes from the extended media from the comics and books, which unfortunately I don't have much interest in reading them, which is why I'm in the group of wanting a game set in the Pendulum Wars. I would kill for that. Speaking of the Pendulum Wars, we should talk about the man who had Kilo Squad in trial, Ezra Loomis. Loomis is what I would say the main antagonist of the game. It's obvious that Karn and the Locust are the main enemies and villains, but what I really like about this story is how it shows that Loomis is another clear threat to the main characters. Through the mannerisms we hear and even see throughout the game, Loomis is a definition of a military man through and through. He joined the COG 20 years before E-Day, and he would grow deep hatred and distrust for the UIR due to their treatment and torture of POWs. Maybe that's why explaining his more colorful language when talking about the UIR.
Colonel, you have no idea what you're up against.
I know exactly what I'm up against. The grub who killed a bunch of worthless Indies. I'd shake the bastard's hand if I could.
As a character, I honestly really do like Loomis, but not because I actually, like what he does. No, he's very stoic and does things by the book, even if it can be seen as insane, which I think even Baird knows. As throughout the trial, the Locusts get closer to them and even break in, but this doesn't faze him from doing what he considers the right thing, even threatening a soldier to continue his defense on the Locust. The reason I say that I like him is that I can't really blame him for doing this trial. Remember, The game takes place mere weeks after E-Day. The Locusts are an entirely new entity that are more vicious and bloodthirsty than anything the world of Sarah has ever seen. The team heads through the seaside shores to find Elliot's mansion and retrieve the codes to launch the Lightmass missiles. I like the setting, especially the fog, since it helps to give a more eerie look to the level. While not much goes on throughout the story until we reach the mansion, I should mention some aspects of the gameplay. Despite being a prequel to the main games, there are still some new weapons. With Paddock, we get to use UIR weapons like the Markza, which is a marksman rifle and is pretty powerful, but I am terrible with weapons that have scopes, so I don't like using it, and the breach shot is the perfect version of it for me. It doesn't have a scope and it's a bolt action rifle, which just makes it more fun. The most fun weapon, however, is the Bushka. It's a grenade launcher, and not only is it incredibly effective because it's not a heavy weapon, so you can keep this on you throughout the whole game, it's also really fun.
A lovely weapon.
While almost every Locust appears, even the smaller corpses introduced in Gears 3 and the mini bloatflies from 3 as well, we get an entirely new enemy, the Rager. As said in the name, the Rager can rage and become a more monstrous form that's incredibly difficult to take down. They do have a weakness with headshots, as well as instantly killed in their base form by chainsaw kills and bayonet charges. And because I don't think I'll ever get a chance to mention it, like this is all off script, you can chainsaw and bayonet Cantus. I always thought they were too big to be affected by this, but hey, I guess you learn something new every day. We reach Elliot's mansion, which also contains the codes to activate the Lightmass missile. During this chapter, we learn that Sophia had a romantic interest with Elliot, but as she said, it didn't work out, and unfortunately, he's dead.
I'm sorry, Cadet.
He was my teacher, Lieutenant. Whatever else happened, happened.
After a defense against some Locust and Berserker, we get the launch codes and head off to find the Lightmass missile in Onyx Point. The last member of Kilo Squad to testify is former Thrashball player Augustus Cole.
I assume you actually listen to your crash ball coach from time to time?
Trash ball. You're not a fan.
Pretend war? No. How are you finding the real thing?
I've been more comfortable.
Then unburden your mind.
As everyone who has ever met him knows, Cole was a Thrashball player before he joined COG. He would join Baird's team and the best duo in the Gear series was made. He's a lot more serious in this game than what we would see in the future, but he still has some great moments.
The grenade traps hardly slowed us down. Put that in your report, Colonel.
As we go through Onyx Point, I want to mention one of the most underrated aspects of the game, the soundtrack. Judgment's soundtrack is what I would say is the most action and fast-paced OST in the series. Steve Jablonsky and Jacob Shea would make a score that works greatly with the setting and the story, and there are so many tracks to highlight. In general, Onyx Point is my favorite chapter, more specifically with the gameplay as we get the Gears version of D-Day, not only from attacking the beach, but also defending the area at the end. There are also some fun missions where you can use a silverback and destroy everything, using shields to defend yourself from turrets, and the wind actually affecting your vision and the gravity of your grenades. Kilo Squad finds and activates the Lightmass missile for use, however they get caught and Loomis orders Sophia to arrest the rest of the team. Hearing that there's a team in help and knowing from Paddock's experience of Karn's viciousness, they all agree to use the missile.
It's done.
Act 5 is one of my favorite chapters due to the setting alone, but the challenges in this act were annoying, to say the least. There were some fun ones in the end where you had limited visibility in a defense area, and one section where you had to go against a bunch of ragers, but doing a level with only pistols and then another one with limited ammo was very annoying to get 3 stars with. So to beef up and have something to talk about, I want to mention small things that help to make this series unique. Might be the only time I'll ever get to do this, so let's start really quickly. The Locust sound design is really good, from the simple-minded brutes going to the honestly terrifying clicks of the ticks, and the main reason on why they're my favorite enemy, the screeching of the Cantus. This also goes for the weapons. They all sound incredibly powerful and very unique to each other, but one of my favorites has always been the mortar. Another aspect I love about the series is the way it handles humor. If you can't tell, the series takes itself very serious, and the humor I would say is very dry. I really don't know of a way to explain it, but that's the only way I could realistically describe it. The best example I can think of is when the team goes through a victory parade.
Paddock, I hope this victory stuff doesn't, you know.
Don't worry. Once this war's over, we can go back to trying to kill each other. Like normal people.
After finding Khar's location, Loomis threatens the team to court-martial them, and considering what everyone has seen the Locust do, they decide to go with it, and before they launch the Lightmass missile, they decide to give the bot a name, which is a lot more effective than what happened in Gears 5. But with that, they launched the Lightmass missile and pretty much screwed themselves over with the court.
Fine, I'll see you in court. I suggest you take cover, sir.
This is Omega 2. We're a little roasted, but clear.
After taking out the last few Locusts that survived, they get rescued, but
I told you to stay on that island, Lieutenant.
we're now in the present where Loomis has reached the order to execute Kilo Squad. But before that can happen, they all make some good points about what they did, especially Baird.
Maybe you have a point, sir. We saved, what, 1,000 people? The Lightmass missile was designed to save millions. I know that. But if Kharn had taken Halvo, we might have lost a chance to save anyone.
Despite how every sane person knew this would happen, the courthouse gets invaded by the Locust and an all-out war happens. Something to notice here is Paddock's aim when he's about to shoot the Locust. Not much to add through this section other than some great visuals and a fun challenge of using cleavers, like it's Bloodborne. The last level has Loomis join the team and, honestly, he has some pretty good lines.
Colonel, where did you come from?
I was killing all the grubs you missed.
The Raven is destroyed and we take on Kharn.
Boogeyman? Doesn't look so tough.
He's a pretty fun boss. All you need to do is shoot the glowing spots on the creature. That's about it. If there's anything else I can add, it's that this is the overall best fight in the series, which really isn't that much, but I do like the sound design of the creature. After the Corpser is killed, Kharn is on the ground. Kilo Squad wonders what to do with him, but out of all the characters here, Loomis decides to do the right thing.
War is cruelty.
After that, he lets Baird know that while the charges are dropped, he will never be a lieutenant again. And with some fun banter with the other characters, we finish Gears of War Judgment.
No wonder I was supposed to keep an eye on you.
On me? For what?
I guess they thought you might try to steal our military technology. Which you did.
Illegally access military technology. There's a difference.
Pardon me, Lieutenant Baird.
It's Private Baird now. Loomis just demoted me.
My congratulations.
Couldn't have done it without you.
I think that means I might be in charge.
Perfect.
Cole, do we have this much tension between us?
Yeah, I think we might.
Good. Just check.
Gears of War Judgment is still to me one of the most fun and underrated Gears games in the series. It has a lot of things that I think people overlook. It has a unique and well done story, a lot of gameplay changes and additions that are overall great, maybe some that didn't nail, but in the end, this is still a great game. And with that, we finished the original Gears of War series. I am honestly very satisfied with myself that I have got this done. I would say I would take a break from doing videos because all this is just kind of tiring right now, but I guarantee that my next major project will be about Destiny 2, The Final Shape. After that, I have a few ideas of another series to go through, but whatever happens, I hope you would kindly watch it. Anyway, thank you for watching, and have a great day.